Have you checked the children? Your little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Robert Duell.
I'm in Fuego here.
And we are here to finally review the last movie in the Hellraiser series, at least as of our taping of this here in 2020. And we are going to be discussing Hellraiser Judgment. Now, this is technically the second Hellraiser movie without Doug Bradley playing Pinhead, but it is still a Pinhead-centric Hellraiser movie. So this one was done a little bit differently, though. This was helmed, I don't know if it was written and directed, or was it just directed by Gary J. Tunnicliffe, I believe is his name.
I know he had the story concept, and he was originally going to direct Revelations, and they just had to fast-track that movie, and so he was brought on 7 years later in 2018 to do this one.
And he was the makeup effects guy of the last few Hellraisers, though.
And you can tell.
Deader, Hellworld, and I think Revelations as well, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, he took over this movie, and not only that, but he actually stars as the auditor, the kind of guy that was in all the promotional material because they didn't want to lean on the fact that it was Pinhead again without Doug Bradley. So they had the auditor, who basically is Pinhead without the pins because his face is all sliced up and everything.
Like a skinnier version of the guy with the little sunglasses.
Yeah, exactly. The big guy with sunglasses from the earlier Hellraiser movies. So I will say that this one was better than the last movie. However, this is still a complete mess of a Hellraiser movie. I do think that this is, again, created from the ground up as a Hellraiser movie. This is not a retrofit, but this is not your daddy's Hellraiser movie. This is Pinhead is barely in it. Again, half the time he's in it, he's just listening to what's going on around him.
Sitting on said throne.
On a throne, exactly. But this movie just goes gross for no reason.
Very much so.
It's not. I just didn't find it entertaining. I think that I definitely like the story of the last movie much better, but overall, this movie is a little bit better than Revelations. But man, not by much, in my opinion. Robert?
I definitely had more fun with this one than I did with the previous one, Revelations. I don't know. I still would definitely watch this one, I think, over Deader.
Okay.
And everything personally.
Okay.
Just because, again, it was a little bit more Hellraiser eccentric and everything with the universe, but again, we didn't have much Pinhead in it. We just had glimpses. It was more focused on our auditor, our assessor, and then the jurors, basically they're called. Yeah,
I guess that's what they were.
Yeah, that's literally what.
That is what they were called.
Yeah, and come on, you guys, you couldn't have thought about better names or something. Like, I understand.
Let's make hell a court system.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I'm like, yeah, hell's going court, you know.
That's what everyone wants.
Yeah, but no, there were some elements of the story I enjoyed, but more so there were elements that didn't need to be in this at all.
Fuego.
There was a classiness to the debaucherousness in most Hellraiser movies, and yet this one had much more of a gross, like lowbrow sort of approach to its shock value.
This felt like Rob Zombie's Hellraiser.
In a lot of ways.
Trailer Park Hellraiser.
I honestly didn't think about that until
with the weird extraction machines and stuff, and I mean I don't know, it just didn't feel classy in comparison to the extenuation of the nudity, which it looked great, but
the jurors coming up with a verdict by putting their hands in vomit
and eating it
is just not. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So
it's just
real quick.
Go ahead. Tell the assessor's process.
All right. So basically, he types up on his really nice
old school typewriter.
Typewriter, like fucking hella nice. But he types up all their confessions and their sins.
The auditor.
He
and gets a victim, sits across the table, types up their confessions.
Yeah, and then basically he brings in who's called the assessor. And he literally flaps down your pages of sins, pours with the
children's
tears, yes. And he cuts them up and eats them. And
like a salad.
I will tell you one thing. The sound design for this scene, or these scenes in general, were very effective and unnerving.
Make you feel
uncomfortable. Yeah, no, I had like some in my stomach and everything, especially when the focus on his mouth as he's eating.
Pretty bile-inducing.
Fucking gross.
Yeah.
But once that happens, basically the verdict is
he goes
created, and then he vomits
Yeah.
up the verdict, and it goes into the chute, and these 3 naked jurors, basically demon girls,
missing half a face.
Yeah.
but
eat-
still showing their big fake boobs.
yeah, eat the vomit, and that is where the auditor determines the verdict, the
But
final
they
verdict.
kneel down into like a trough where all of it is.
Yeah, and then that's how, and then that's their final thing is either innocent or guilty, and then if
You can imagine where most of these are going to go.
Well, and
Yeah.
this is definitely a level of hell, but this is not.
Yeah.
Like Fuego said, this is not representative of
But
the Hellraiser
there-
level of class.
but
Yeah,
they,
yeah.
what did
Well,
take place on the house on Ludovico Street.
True.
Yeah.
So
True. That's I was gonna make that point
It
too.
was
yeah.
a nice tie-in to like the original movies and everything, and still keeping with the
Didn't
lore
look
of
anywhere
it.
near like the same house, but
No,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course not, and everything, but
But it also, I mean, it altered some rules and some lore and didn't exactly
Yeah.
explain the full extent of it, and the use of the box was completely different and
Well, and it
almost
brings
like pushed
in-
aside.
Brings in a whole nother aspect. It brings in angels for the first time into the Hellraiser lore.
Yeah.
I actually kind of liked the ending, except that I
Yeah.
didn't like the ending.
Yeah, and
Like
the way
the-
that they approached the angels almost.
ending I didn't
Yeah,
like.
yeah, that's,
Yeah, it was almost like
The fact
the
that it
angels
was the
in
Darth
Spawn,
Vader
like
ending.
Angela in Spawn and the different avenging female angels. That's kind of the vibe that we get with the one who shows up pretty early on in the film.
except that
and then,
she's defending a really terrible human
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah,
it's
the faulty
it's
logic of
confused.
having-
It's
yeah.
confused.
Yeah.
But it's doing something that no other Hellraiser has done before, so I guess it's kind of interesting.
And
in
like
that
like
way.
I said earlier, I liked that aspect to a point, but at the same time, it still felt unnatural in the story.
Well, and I mean, it was back to kind of what they did in 5 with the police procedural aspect. And,
yeah,
you know,
hit the
trying
rest
to-
of the
trying to
story
find
since
the
we
killer.
haven't technically.
Yeah, so we've got these. So they were actually brothers, right?
Yes.
Despite having the
Yeah.
same last name. Okay,
They are
yeah.
brothers.
And so there's this 20-year-old woman, and that was another one of the gross out scenes that we'll talk about when we get to the practical. My baby, and you know the little dog bit, which we'll get to. But there's this
Oh,
woman.
yeah,
There's
that-
this woman
that was
killed in a
fucked
very
up.
grisly fashion, and we'll get to the extent of that. And so these two brothers, they investigate the murder. They're paired with this woman, and the older brother is very standoffish, very stereotypical. I don't want a woman helping us out with this derp, and you know. So they start investigating. More murders pop up, and there is this righteous anger and vengeance of God sort of scenario that the killer is making evident at every murder scene, and it's very predictable in what's revealed in the third act. Robert and I were talking off camera before we filmed this. You can kind of see the twist a mile away. Not surprising in any way.
And the biggest thing, it's dialogue. That's what gives it away.
Yeah.
It's I understand like they were trying to be like subtle with it, but it wasn't subtle enough.
And you feel like they're trying to throw you off when the woman talks about why she was assigned to the case, and you're like, oh, well, that can't be. And don't want to spoil anything more beyond that, but yeah, when it turns out to be what is said, it's nothing surprising. Predictable.
Yeah, the story is pretty unfulfilling in my opinion. It's
At least until the finale. That
not
was
that engaging.
I'm
The
kinda with you
finale
where
made up for it.
And they left it. There's a post-credit scene too, by the way.
Yep.
I didn't actually stay for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's he's not in America anymore.
They're in Germany.
That's
in
where
the
it was.
post-credit.
Yeah.
Wait, what happens? So
The auditor moves
Oh,
to
really?
Germany.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
And there's
whatever.
those
He
German,
goes
the
abroad.
German Jehovah's Witnesses that show up.
He's like,
Anyway,
"Ooh,
and that's
two."
where and that's where the director wanted to make a few more films, and even with what happens with Heaven and Pinhead and so on and so forth in the third act, without spoiling stuff, they do leave it open for more of this conflict between high and below. So I don't know, but
So yeah, story didn't really impress any of us acting wise.
thought the
Again,
girl
I
was
think the
pretty good.
Pinhead was better than the last Pinhead, but still not great, especially in the very last scene when he Darth Vader's. It's very, very rough. Or not the post-credit scene, but the other scene.
Yeah.
I actually really liked the director in that Auditor.
Yeah,
role.
he did a
I
good
thought
job
he
as
was
the
solid,
auditor.
and
To
I
be
dug
honest.
his look and just the
It's like
accent. I don't
gentleman.
know if that
Yeah.
was purposeful or not.
Yeah.
Not, no.
Definitely, yeah. There was like the graphics and everything for the Auditor was really nice. The gore for what we got was, I liked it better than we got in even Hellworld and Salvation.
Yeah. Well, it's dirtier, grosser.
It's dirty. It isn't everything. They went more for that grunge look and everything.
But a lot of practical.
A lot of practical, and that's I think
And a lot of Cenobite stuff.
where it saved it.
Or Cenobite-esque
Yeah.
kind of things.
And that scene early on with the dog, I tell you,
That was
tiny
rough,
little dog, man. And
So yeah, it's a little 7-ish where
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a killer
Good call.
going after people that are, he's targeting them in a very church-based way,
Eye for an eye.
including a girl that put on her Instagram that she worships her dog. So he comes and kills the girl, and when the cops show up, they see her stomach moving, and it's been sewn up, and basically they open her up, and the dog has been sewn into her stomach. And
Dog's
has
still alive, don't
somehow
worry.
lived through it, but
It's like
it was
trying to
disturbing
claw out
nonetheless.
from the staples.
Yeah, it was disturbing, but it didn't make any logical sense. The dog would have suffocated 100%.
Yeah, within that time, yes,
But nonetheless, there's weird stuff like that in the movie, and it gets gross and gritty at times, and I don't know, it's just...
I tell you one thing though, that scene in it, like after he's like the one dude sent back and shit, and then it's basically you knew that was gonna happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had a good laugh at that one. It's like, of course you guys are just gonna knock it out like that.
Yeah.
That was a little cheap, but whatever.
So yeah, I think also the sound design, like Robert mentioned briefly there, I think it made a big difference, especially with all the grossness that they had to get across with the eating and slurping of paper and the vomiting and the gushing and the groping.
Yeah, and the fluids moving through tubes and machinery and the extraction process of all that crap. I mean, they definitely sold the lowbrow grossness of this. So,
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's not what sells an entire movie. So the whole thing is just kind of leaves you wanting more. It's not a really good cohesive story that you care about by any stretch. No. So it's just one of the lower entries of the series, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
after this, Dimension lost the rights.
Yep.
So there you go.
So we'll see if anything happens after this. But for now, that's going to do it for our review series for Hellraiser, the movies. We're also reviewing the books and some of the comics, too. I checked. There's like 13 different Hellraiser series that have come out since the very first one in the early 80s.
Holy
so
shit.
I don't know. It's going to take
There's
me a while before I
there's
get all
only so
those.
much.
Yeah, so, but nonetheless, still a lot of Hellraiser coverage coming at you, including the tier list ranking of both the movies and the novels. And who knows, if we ever get through all the comics, maybe we'll rank those too. But stay tuned for that. Thank you very much for watching our review of this Hellraiser Judgment. Let us know in the comments down below. Did you guys watch this one? This is technically a re-review. I did review it the first time with Susie a couple of years ago when it first came out. We didn't like it then. It didn't get much better this time. But I wanted to get your guys' thoughts since we reviewed the rest of the series together. So let us know what your guys' thoughts are in those comments down below. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Robert Duell.
And gracias, Jaime, Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.